Hi, Danny from Game Theory College Planners, here to go through our entire process and our entire thesis of here's how you get 4 years of college for the price of 2, sometimes even less, by using advanced academic strategies without the sleepless nights, frustration, the noise, and all the usual BS. We've dedicated over 10 years of our life solving this problem. I've been working with families full-time out of the Atlanta area for over 10 years. And yes, we've been featured, interviewed in Medium. I've done guest columns on the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and a simple Google search ought to tell you everything you need to know. But what we're going to do is we're going to dive into our thesis and really help you understand what we're all about. I want to introduce you to some people. This is Sophia, 2021 grad, got 4 years of college for the price of 2. We took the cost of attendance at Rhodes College from $66,000 down to the low 30s. Here's Sheridan, got her into a $35,000 a year college for less than a third of the price at $11,401. Here's Christopher, University of Arkansas, $25,000 down to a cost of attendance of 0. Okay. Here's Anna, 4 years of college for less than the price of 2 years. University of Alabama, cost of $40,000, got it down to $16,000. This is Emily, Georgia Tech, cost of attendance $28,000. We actually got her cost below 0. She's actually getting paid to go there. This is Cameron, Oglethorpe, $54,000 cost of attendance, got it down to less than in-state price of $19,376. So here's Samantha, $64,000 down to $25,000 cost of attendance over at Stetson. We do this all day long. This is a letter that was sent to us in the middle of the pandemic, and it came to us when we really needed it. And this came from Sandra, and she thanked us for the work that we did. And it was a really nice letter. If you go through, we've actually compiled a list of Google reviews that we've gotten throughout the years. You could take the time to read these, but each and every one of these families, I remember all of them. Each one has a unique story, and just really wanted to show you that we've got reviews that go back 6 years, 7 years, so we're not some new pop-up college planning service that came out of nowhere. We've been doing this for a long time, and you can clearly read the results. Before we get further in the video, I want to be very clear on who this process is really for. If you feel that every student, regardless of circumstance, deserves the best shot possible at the best college possible, you're in the right place. If you want to see your student get all the benefits of a college degree without the debt, you're at the right place. If you want your kids to have the same opportunities you have, or even better opportunities, stick around, all right? If you suspect that college has changed, that the way of college admissions and financial aid has changed, you're absolutely right, it has. If you feel like you make too much money to get any aid, but you don't make enough to afford these exorbitant prices, stick around, all right? If you're thinking that maybe your student isn't gifted enough to get aid, think again, stick around. If you're tired of all the noise, all the empty claims and promises that are out there, you've come to the right place. If you've already thrown thousands of dollars at a college planner or admissions counselor, you've come to the right place. If you're racked with guilt, thinking that you're a bad mom or you're a bad dad for not having this figured out, don't be, okay? Let me also be very clear on who this process is not for. You're only concerned about getting into colleges that have the best football teams. Or maybe you're completely fine letting a teenager make a $200,000 or $300,000 decision on their own. Maybe you're completely okay with that. This is not the process for you. If you are not open-minded, if you're not coachable, look elsewhere, all right? If you don't communicate, if you don't care how much college is going to cost, this is not for you. Here's the basic premise, is that families can win at this. They can win at this by employing advanced academic strategies and by following the right steps and the right order. But unfortunately, with all the noise and BS that's out there, it's really easy for families to overlook this process. But it can be done. And we've, again, dedicated our lives to this process. This is myself featured here, quoted in Medium. We were interviewed as a disruptor in our industry. And this is also a great quote from my wife, Karen, who also runs game theory with me. And she makes the point here that colleges have turned into businesses. If you want to read an excerpt from our interview, we've got it here on our page. It really spells out what we're about. We're disrupting the higher ed industry. We're not looking to make any enemies, but there are a lot of people in our industry that don't like what we're talking about. And it really boils down to the changes that have happened. A lot of people in higher ed just haven't accepted the fact that it's changed. If we make enemies in higher ed, that's fine. That isn't our job, isn't to make higher ed happy. Our job is to make the families that we work with very happy. All right. So take some time to read this interview. It really dives in to our backstory, and you can really get to know us by reading the interview. What we're going to do today is we're going to kind of dive in and talk about 7 key insights that will completely change everything when it comes to college. We'll go ahead and get started. So the first insight I want to go through with you today is, number 1, understanding four-year graduation rates will significantly reduce your college costs. And I'll tell you, the old way of doing this, we look at college costs by evaluating the cost of going. Normally, we don't pay any attention to four-year grad rate. The old result is we end up reducing the value of your student's degree by 40% by some measures. By going to the cheaper colleges in state, we delay our graduation, and we actually end up getting into the most expensive college that you can buy. The new way of doing this is we actually evaluate colleges by the cost of graduating. We adopt a 4-year, an on-time graduation centric strategy. We put an emphasis on academic fit, retention rate, 4-year grad rate, of course. The new result here is that when you compare the national average of 4-year graduation of 19%, by employing an on-time graduation strategy, over 90% of our students graduate in 4 years. And many of those students are getting the degree at their lowest possible cost. Again, the single best way to minimize your college expense is to simply graduate on time. This is sourced from CompleteCollegeAmerica.org. Some of the 2 most common reasons why students don't graduate on time is oftentimes we end up going to schools that have too many students and not enough teachers. So a lot of the classes that you need to graduate, when you go to register, they're already full. The other reason why students delay their graduation is oftentimes scholarships have hours requirements. You have to have a minimum number of hours to keep certain scholarships. And when classes aren't available that you need, students end up taking classes that they don't need. And when you put these 2 factors together, you end up with a delayed graduation. We always want to teach families the shift in mindset of how much does it cost to graduate from a college? Don't look at the cost of going, look at the cost of graduating. We pulled some metrics here from the Department of Education, and as you can see, these tables are measured for 6-year outcomes. Why 6-year outcomes, all right? When you scale it back and look at it from a 4-year standpoint, as bad as these numbers look, they're going to look a lot worse. This is a great statement from the National Student Clearinghouse, which is basically the Department of Education, that the real problem today is inflating college costs and excessive student loan debt due to delayed graduation. So it's not really that we're borrowing all this money that's a problem. It's that we're borrowing all this money, but most of us are never even finishing college. So paying off these loans on minimum wage become a very difficult challenge. Alyssa Nadworny from NPR had a special article, 6 out of 10 students will not have a degree after 6 years. Now, if you look at all this data, it's very clear. On-time graduation is the issue. I'll record a great video here, and you can take some time to watch it. But what it basically talks about is that the cost of an extra year could cost as much as the first 4 years in state here in Georgia. So I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, but we just want to make sure that we're presenting our case and that a shift in focus needs to go away from the cost of going, and it needs to be focused more on the cost of graduating on time. Unfortunately, not a lot of people are talking about this. Let's just go over some frequently asked questions. How is this true? At the college tour I attended, I was told that the grad rate was 86%. There's, I think UGA quotes a grad rate of 86% here in Georgia, but when you look at the fine print, they're quoting you their 6-year grad rate. Why aren't they giving you their 4-year rate? Think about it. I knew someone that finished in 4 years. Is this really true? We're not saying that students aren't getting done in 4 years. Clearly, there are students getting done in 4. It's just that they represent a very, very small percentage of students going to college. Isn't this just a scare tactic? I was able to finish college in 4 years. Newsflash, a lot's changed since you went to college. The number of students going to college today has more than doubled since you went to college, and these colleges are just too crowded. Look at the data, the numbers don't lie. Okay, here's another insight for you. You actually want to look at the expensive colleges. I know it's counterintuitive, but what we do is we look to the expensive colleges for larger award letters. And with the larger award letters, that gets you to lower overall cost. So the old way of doing things, we actually ran away from these colleges. We wouldn't look at them. We just made these snap judgments based on their sticker price. And the old result is you significantly reduce your choices. And ironically, given the lower grad rates that we tend to see in in-state public colleges, we inadvertently pick the colleges that end up costing you the most. So the new way of doing this is we go after the quote-unquote expensive colleges because we recognize that they can potentially pay bigger scholarships. These bigger colleges also tend to have better four-year grad rates, right? So with the right data, our students get a much wider selection of colleges that they can choose from. The new result is our students, they get into the best possible colleges at the lowest possible prices. This is a great article in US News and World Report, very recent. Again, if you just Google search this, you're going to see that what I'm saying is true, but a lot of people just don't connect the dots. And where does all this money come from? Well, a lot of colleges possess substantial endowment funds. You'd be amazed at what these nonprofit colleges have stored away. If you look at this chart, we actually have the 10 universities, the 10 biggest endowments in the United States probably from a lot of the colleges you know about, all right? Harvard's at over $40 billion, Columbia at only $10 billion. So most colleges, there's a lot of colleges on this list with endowments in the billions. And if they're not in the billions, they're in the hundreds of millions. And you know what? That's still a lot of money. So that's where we go. And here's a quick case study of Sheridan. If you look at the 7 expensive colleges she applied to, 4 out of the 7 came in at the in-state average cost of $26,000. They came in at or well below that price. This is something that we see every day. Frequently asked questions. How is this true? Our guidance counselors have been telling us to go in-state for years. I know. Oftentimes, a lot of guidance counselors, they just don't know. This in-state is cheaper myth has been persistent for years. I remember that was the advice we got back in 1994 when I graduated high school, and a lot of college planners still subscribe to this, CPAs, financial advisors. I know that there are families paying full price at these expensive colleges. Why are they paying full price? Probably because they don't know what we know. All right, there's clearly families out there that are paying full sticker price for these colleges, and that there's this myth that families, they're told they make too much to get money from a college. Again, it's just a myth. For the families we work with, we've worked with families that are interested in expanding their understanding of how colleges really work. There has to be a catch here. The case study presented probably has an amazing GPA and unrealistically high test score. Lily's a great student, okay, in this case study, but she has a 3.6 GPA and a 23 on the ACT, and we got these amazing results. It's not about having a perfect test score. It's not about having a perfect GPA. It's about being a student that's willing to work hard and willing to look at the right schools. So no catch here. You can get big award letters with the right data and if you know where to look. So here's another one. Social media can increase your admissions chances in your merit awards. I love talking about social media because absolutely nobody in higher education does. Social media tends to come across as a warning rather than as a tool used to research colleges, research careers, and to leverage great offer from the college. So the old way of doing things, like I said earlier, so many people in higher ed, if they do talk about social media, they're usually talking about 2 things. Number 1, they're usually saying something along the lines of don't do anything stupid. Number 2, they're usually saying something along the lines of run away and hide. The old result is we rely on the old, tired sources of information, magazines, online ranking lists on Google search, internet forums, which is just all noise. Our insights into colleges tend to be fragmented, conflicting, and limited. Our students, the old way, get lost in the stack. They think that colleges are actually reading college essays, and our students end up being whittled down to a test score and transcript. The new way is we understand social media and we leverage it as a tool rather than a toy. Our students and parents get real-time and accurate and useful data that they're not even going to get from a college visit. Our social media, if it's used properly, can allow a student to tell their story on their terms. They're not limited to 500 or 700 words on an essay. The new result here is with social media, our families and students can make smarter decisions. Students can tell their story with a broader canvas, and they can get noticed by the colleges and increase their chances at merit scholarships. Social media, it's one of the most misunderstood and underutilized tools in the college planning process. This here is a quick screenshot where I'm talking about professional networks such as LinkedIn being used for the college search. You could just Google that and read the whole article there, the AJC, the Atlanta Journal. This here's a great series of videos that really break down how LinkedIn can be used to enhance how you research colleges and how you research careers and majors. So take some time to watch that. I won't get into too many details here. Again, this is just a broad overview of our thesis, but you'd be amazed at how useful a social media network like LinkedIn can be and how much information it can give you on these colleges. It's a resource that really doesn't cost anything. It just requires an internet connection and a computer. Social media increases our students' visibility. Now, this is what it boils down to. Which story do you want to tell? Do you want to tell this one? Okay, what does that really tell a college? Or do you want to tell this one? All right. If you look at the statistics, I think Kaplan does a survey each year. It's undeniable. More and more and more colleges are looking. This is a great quote from the Dean of Admissions at Harvard. And basically, if Harvard sees a link in the application, they're going to click on it. They're going to look at it. Over 75% of colleges monitor social media as part of their admissions and merit aid decisions, according to the American Association of Collegiate Registrars and Admissions Officers. One of my favorite articles here in the New York Times, Matthew Marchat, one of our students we worked with back in 2017. This article featured Matthew, and it really features a lot of the work that we do in how we prepare students for college with social media. And this sounds a little self-promotional. This is a quote from me. How this all really started was I had a young student. She came back from visiting Elon University, and she had tweeted about her experience. And when the college tweeted back, she didn't know what to do. So she came to me for advice on this, and I didn't know what to do either. And I had made some calls. I talked to my team, and I realized that there wasn't anyone in higher education that really had a handle on this. You know, as a formal Apple employee, I was always accustomed to being on the cutting edge of things. And when I found out that there was this big blind spot in my college planning practice, it really lit a fire under me, and I really researched this. And here I am 7 years later, and I'm pretty sure we figured it out. Another really useful feature of LinkedIn, some of our students get LinkedIn Premium. This is Josh Wright, a student from Roswell High School that I work with. And a really neat thing about LinkedIn Premium that a lot of people don't pick up on is that with LinkedIn Premium, you can actually see when someone from a college is looking at your profile. And these are some texts that Josh sent me that really hammer the point home. This here is a quick video on social media engagement. What does it really mean? A lot of people throw around that word, social media engagement, and they don't really seem to know what it means. But it's hard to explain with bullet points. But if you take some time to watch this video, it really, I give you a few real life examples of how students created engagement through social media. I'll let you watch the video. So a few frequently asked questions here. Isn't it just safer to stay away from social media altogether? Colleges aren't looking at social media to catch you doing anything wrong, but they are looking at it so that they can get more information. I don't believe in social media for my student. There's a lot of garbage out there and it's dangerous. I agree. There is a lot of garbage out there, but we believe that educating students sooner rather than later will help them overcome the inevitable challenges that they're going to face on social media. I think we need to accept the fact that social media isn't some trend, that it's not going to go away, and that education rather than avoidance is the best way to address the challenges that social media will present. How does my student create a LinkedIn page? They haven't done anything yet. They don't even have a job. I get it. As adults, we use LinkedIn as a way to show what we've done. We encourage students to use LinkedIn to show colleges who they hope to become. Okay, there's some nuance there. Can the principles learned here be used for the parents' own professional and career development? Now you're getting it. Okay, a lot of these principles that we teach go beyond college. All right. So what you're basically saying is all that I need is a LinkedIn page. Not at all. Okay, LinkedIn's a great start. There are things that you can do on Twitter, Instagram, with a YouTube channel, having a simple Gmail account, using Google Alerts. All of these things contribute to how we plan for college and how we ultimately land a career. Some of it's major dependent, but we're just using LinkedIn just to kind of get our feet wet into the subject matter, because I think if we dove into it all at once, we'd add a few more hours. We'll cover that later. Our college is really looking. I can't believe they have the time to do all of this. Yeah, they're looking. Okay. My student doesn't want to change their social media accounts. How will this help? With social media guidance, we don't change the student's social media. Their personal social media stays the same. We're not looking to change it. What we do is we want to add a professional social media presence in addition to whatever they're already doing. So when colleges look, they'll find the professional stuff. My student's not on social media. How can this help? Well, I'd say at the very, very minimum, your student's going to want a professional account that will assist them with the job search after college. Social media is here to stay. I'll stick my neck out there and say, look, we just can't really put our head in the sand about this, and some level of education, I believe, is required for the college search and beyond. Okay, now on to the next insight. Knowing your expected family contribution before the college or the government does is going to save you tens of thousands of dollars. So the old way of doing things is, it's frustrating sometimes, because even when you're working with some of these so-called professionals, we're all guided by this imperfect understanding of what EFC is and what it really does. And a lot of families really end up just overpaying that don't have to. With the old result, we drastically alter the view on the colleges that we can and can't afford based on our misunderstanding of how EFC really works. The new way of doing things is we need to understand how EFC really works, not only in how the number is calculated, but more importantly, how that number is applied in the real world. And by knowing and leveraging your EFC in advance, the new way is we just save tens of thousands of dollars. Yeah, you could go on Google, you could go on the internet, you could do these cost calculators, you can calculate your EFC, but there's one thing these cost calculators don't do. There's one thing these EFC calculators don't do. They don't show you how to position your EFC to maximize the money you get from the colleges. Now, this is an area that basically where admissions counselors or college planners that don't know how to do this is an area where we might get attacked a little bit. You know, is it illegal? That's wrong. Well, all I have to say is, in this article from Bloomberg Businessweek, they're actually interviewing Pamela Fowler, who at the time was the financial aid director at University of Michigan, and she talks about this. She even says she's not a big fan of consultants. Well, I wonder why. Consultants like us prevent colleges from overcharging families. And she says, in some instances, consultants can help a family better position themselves for financial aid. It can give families an advantage. This really works. Now, this here is a basic formula, and you can watch this video. I dive more in depth as to what the formula is, but you basically take the cost of the college or cost of attendance, and you subtract your expected family contribution, or the amount that the government or the college thinks that you can afford. The difference is the need. So whether there's need or no need gives us tremendous insight into the kind of money that you can get and how much money that you can get. Just as an example, a couple of case studies. Andrew, Melinda. Andrew applied to 7 colleges. Family's annual income was $86,000. EFC was initially $16,500. Our strategy brought the EFC a little lower down to $11,700, which allowed Vanderbilt to award $55,000 in gift aid, which brought their cost from $66,800 down to, guess what? $11,700, down to their EFC. So we saved this family, out of all the 7 scholarship packages over the 4 years that Andrew applied to, saved them over $1.2 million. Now, little asterisk there. I did change the names of these families because we are talking about specific finances, so these are aliases. Now, for Melinda's family, look at this. Family's annual income was over $400,000. Their financial advisor, their CPA, and their college planner told them they weren't going to get any money. They came to us as a referral, and when we applied our enrollment management principles, and we understood what EFC really meant, we created competition. They basically got over $500,000 in aid over the 4 years from the 9 colleges they applied to. So you can see Augustana offered $27,000, brought their cost from $52,700 down to $25,700, which is in-state price. Income's not the issue here. The other thing families don't understand, and a lot of college planners don't understand, is both need and merit-based systems are impacted by the family's financials. All of us have this perception that merit aid is driven by grades and test scores. It's not. And this is a great article in Forbes magazine where they talk about the invisible force of college admissions. And I'll read this quote. Galen Graber is surveying 1,500 of the top admissions and financial aid officials from 635 different colleges. And he basically asked them, how many of you would say that the primary motivation for offering merit aid is to award academic achievement, and not a single person in that room raised their hand? There's a lot of factors behind merit aid, and one of the factors in a lot of college is the family's financial footprint. I know it's a bold claim. A lot of people in higher ed might have a few things to say about it, but here's the thing. We never make a statement. We never teach something that we can't prove. Because of the number of families we work with every year, we come across what I like to call interesting twin studies. And it's not uncommon, if we're working with over 120 families a year, for us to come across students that are applying to the same college in the same year. And every now and then, the students actually look alike in terms of academics. The finances look alike, okay, except in some key areas. So again, I changed the names of these families. This is Patrick, studying computer science, wants to go to Santa Clara, applied to Santa Clara. Aaron, also a computer science major, applying to the same college, same year. Patrick has a 3.9 GPA, 32 on the ACT. Aaron, about the same, slightly lower, but it's about the same. Both families have 6-figure income. Now, Patrick's family has more than $100,000 in countable assets. Aaron's family has less than $30,000. Now, Santa Clara offered Patrick a merit award of $700. That's it. What did Aaron get? $47,000. What's the difference between these two families? Their assets. I could have made this up, right? Well, here's an email from Patrick's dad. Santa Clara University accepted and a ridiculously small scholarship of $700. Now, he did get scholarships from TCU in Kentucky, but not nearly the amount he should have gotten. So this wasn't a happy email. He ended up going in-state to Georgia Tech, which is a good school, but he really had his heart set in Santa Clara because it's right there in Silicon Valley. It's just one of those things. When you're not financially positioned, and if you don't understand what your EFC really means, you really take away from your ability to participate in financial aid leveraging, which is when multiple colleges leverage merit awards to get you to say yes. Really, that's what drives merit aid. It's competition that drives merit aid. Case study there. You see stuff like that all the time. So some quick, frequently asked questions. I've seen merit aid charts published by the colleges. Certain test scores get certain merit scholarships. How could all this be true? Well, a few colleges do award in a simple grid system. You get this GPA, this test score, you get this merit aid. Some colleges do operate that way, but a lot of colleges don't. A lot of colleges are more flexible in how they award. But the Fafsa says certain assets only raise the EFC by certain percentages. What gives? So this is the disconnect that a lot of college planners and financial advisors have. How your EFC is calculated and the rules as to how assets raise your EFC, those are all guidelines. Those are federal guidelines for federal aid. Colleges can choose to follow the federal guidelines. Colleges can choose to ignore them. Get it? All right. So my financial advisor, CPA, or my admissions counselor or college planner says I can't get any aid, that I should not file the Fafsa. Well, they're wrong. Okay. Changing my EFC sounds fishy. Is the work you do even legal? It is legal as the day is long. Okay. Now, I don't want to sound offensive, and sometimes people say, well, that's wrong, that's fishy, what you're doing there. All I've got to say is what sounds fishy to me is charging $60,000 to $80,000 a year for a college. Colleges calling themselves nonprofits and hoarding hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. That sounds fishy. Colleges reducing your award because you listed them first on the Fafsa. They figured out that they're the favorite. Now they know they don't have to give you as much money to get you to say yes. That sounds fishy. All we're doing here is we're leveling the playing field. We are educating ourselves on the reality of how colleges work. And if you can make changes to get more aid, we think you should take it. If you're working with your CPA and your CPA shows you legal ways to pay less in tax, people do it all day long. But you've got to know how to do it the right way. And yeah, a lot of what I'm saying, it's not going to make college planners happy. It's not going to make admissions counselors happy. It's definitely not going to make colleges happy. But so what? I don't work for them. I work for families, and it's the families that need to be happy with the work that we do. So that's that. Going over to our next insight. We believe that empirical data is the best foundation for the college search. We tend to use our heart when picking colleges. Let's start by using our heads first. The old way is, as families, we tend to leave what is potentially a $200,000 to $300,000 decision in the hands of a teenager. If I were to ask my teenage self what car I wanted, I would have said, Dad, I want a Ferrari. Okay, son, we'll just buy you one. No. He can't afford a Ferrari. And if he could, he would be out of his mind to let me make that decision on my own. So why are we doing the same thing with college? Simple question. Old result, we end up with students unhappy. They pick the college where their boyfriend or girlfriend was going. All of a sudden they're sad because they broke up and they want to drop out. They realize that their friends have changed because they want to go to college where their friends are going, and then their friends have changed. They feel like they don't fit in. Students drop out, transfer, end up living at home, end up living on your couch, or parents find themselves with a college they simply can't afford. We've probably heard that story a million times. That's the old result. Here's the new way. We evaluate colleges with the latest metrics available that are metrics that are the greatest predictors of success, in addition to meeting the students' social and personal expectations of the college. You got to strike a balance, okay? Data isn't the end-all, be-all, but it should be the start. The new result is by using empirical data as a foundation, students find themselves exactly where they need to be and exactly where they want to be, and parents end up with colleges that they can actually afford. We know college is an emotional decision. Here's how students pick colleges. I want to go where my friends are going. I want to go where my boyfriend or girlfriend's going. I want to go to that big school. I want to go where there's football. I want the college experience. This college is a 24-hour Taco Bell. I want to go close to home. I want to go far from home. Here's how parents pick colleges. Can we afford this? How are we going to pay for this? And then help. Where's the money going to come from? All right. We want a good school, good academic programs, good schools with good reputations. You're going to go there because I went there. Prestige and status, kind of what I like to call bumper sticker appeal. Wouldn't it be nice to drive around with a Yale sticker on the back of your window or on your bumper? This is my mom's favorite. You can go to college anywhere you want within a 2-hour drive. Here's how we should pick colleges. And we do this from the standpoint of getting in, fitting in, getting paid, and of course, getting out on time. This here, I recorded a short video if you want to dive in a little more. But what we basically do is we start with all the colleges and we filter them down based on core majors, academic fit, and other measurables, retention for your grad rate. And most importantly for a lot of families, we filter out colleges that don't pay and leave colleges that do pay on the list. Wouldn't it be nice to know how much money you're going to get before you even apply? Now, if there's a new test score, if we change our major along the way, it's just wash, rinse, and repeat. But we go into a little more detail here in this video. You can check that out. And our theory of academic fit, okay, there's a lot of different theories out there. I'm just going to show you the one that we subscribe to that has produced amazing results for our families. So it boils down to academic fit. By paying attention to your student's test score, whether it's SAT or ACT, and understanding where it falls within the distribution of that school gives you tremendous insight. Now keep in mind, different schools have different distributions. I'm just spitballing here. Mercer University, their top 25th percentile of students may have a 29 or 30 on the ACT. Whereas at Harvard, the top 25th percentile is a 35 to 36 on the ACT. So different colleges have different distributions. So it's a matter of getting the truest score that we can through proper test prep and finding schools where that score places that student in the top 25th percentile. We want students where they can thrive, where they're spending 36 to 42 hours a week doing college. That's an optimal number because you want to make sure they have their evenings off, they've got the weekends off, that they get to strike that perfect work-life balance. All right. So that's sort of our theory of fit. It's test score driven. We can apply similar theories with schools that are test optional. This is how we start the search, through empirical data. Some FAQs here. Are there any guarantees? This can't be an exact science. We're working with teenagers here. How do we do this? This is actually a question I get from a lot of financial advisors who all of a sudden become college experts. So our take on this is that, yeah, we know dealing with teenagers can be challenging, but do we just throw our hands up in the air and give up, or do we start somewhere? This is a starting point. And can I just Google and go on the online message boards and figure this out on my own? Sure you can. Okay, but the problem is it's not necessarily in finding the answers, it's knowing which questions to ask. Most families never even ask, how much does it cost to graduate? They don't ask the right questions. You can do this, but I'll tell you what, you can mow your own lawn, you can wash your own car, you could clean your own house, you could do your own taxes, you could even represent yourself in court. Some people just choose to save time. They choose to get help. And if you've made it this far and you want to do it on your own, you do you. I won't stop you. But sometimes with the right help, it can make all the difference. My student's not a good test taker. Can you still help? We probably can. We are always on the pulse of all higher ed trends. We know that there are schools that are test optional, but we also recognize that they're not test blind. But we help a lot of families with test scores, without them. I have a student with a 2.5 GPA and an 800 on the SAT. We got him into an amazing school, Loyola, Maryland, with a $46,000 merit scholarship. It's about finding the right school. How do you find colleges that parents can afford? Good data. This goes back earlier to understanding your EFC before the college and the government does, by literally using data to put ourselves in front of schools that we know are going to pay, as opposed to putting ourselves in front of schools that we know will not. It's really that simple. We go after money from the colleges, and that's how we do it. Next insight, you heard me hint at this before. Creating competition between colleges maximizes merit aid. Merit aid is driven off of competition. So the old way is we enter the college marketplace ready to buy a college thinking that we're the buyers. And we think that colleges set the price and we just pay what the college says. And maybe we're lucky, we get a scholarship. So many families don't realize the elasticity with a lot of colleges have with pricing. Old result, we end up overpaying tens of thousands of dollars. It's the story I see again and again and again. Families overpaying way more than they have to. What's the new way? Well, let's evaluate colleges by their enrollment yield. Let's look at the additional metrics, filter out colleges that are willing to buy versus ones that don't. We understand that as families, we're not the ones buying. It's the colleges that are buying your student. We also understand that with the right engagement, with the right competition, we could drive this award process and get tens of thousands of dollars more in aid. We get our students into some of the best colleges in the country at a fraction of the price because we're not beholden to outmoded or outdated thinking. What's the result? Through competition, we've maximized our merit awards. So let's dive into this. This is a shift in perspective a lot of families don't get to see. Some mainstream journalists and authors are picking up on this. This is a quote from Jeff Selingo. I tell families all the time, watch Moneyball, watch Moneyball. It really gives you insight as to how we use metrics to pick schools. And Jeff Selingo stole my thunder, but hey, more power to you, Jeff, for picking up on this. Jeff really outlines the fact that there are colleges out there that are buying students. And he ties it to enrollment yield. And let's look at this, all right? So enrollment yield is basically the percentage of students that say yes when they're given an offer to attend the college. Now, colleges that don't have trouble filling their seats, where students say yes a high percentage of the time, those colleges tend not to use a lot of merit aid. Why? Because merit aid is a tool to fill seats. So if you're already filling your seats, this is probably a tool you're not going to use very often. So if you look at Carnegie Mellon, 38% yield, and yes, that's actually a pretty high yield for a school. They only award merit aid to 7% of their students. Great STEM school, great engineering school. Here's another school, Case Western, great engineering school, but their enrollment yield's only 18%. But look at how much aid they award. Because they're having to work harder to fill their seats, because their yields are so low, they're awarding up to 39% of their students merit aid. And Case Western is no joke. They're a world-class school. If you understand enrollment yield, you can usually use that as a filter to separate schools that pay a lot of money versus the ones that don't. And in some instances, you could separate between the schools that will negotiate the award letter versus the schools that won't. Here's what you really need to know is that a lot of families come in and they want to know, what's the secret? What's the trick? How do we trick these colleges into competing? Creating competition is not a focus. It is a byproduct of all of our collective strategies. We're picking schools that fit. We're driving engagement on social media. We're putting ourselves in front of schools that pay. Competition is a byproduct. By going after colleges that are ultra personalized, by positioning ourselves financially, by understanding our EFC so that we can look like we're a family that can get money versus a family that doesn't look like they're eligible for financial aid leveraging. All these strategies, competition is the byproduct. I get families that call me all the time, hey, I heard you could create competition with colleges. We've already picked them. We've already applied. How do we create the competition now? Well, you see, it doesn't work that way. Again, competition is the byproduct of all the strategies. So this is a great podcast, How Colleges Fight for Students. I couldn't believe it. I'll never forget. I was driving in my car and they were interviewing this enrollment manager and he was literally spilling the beans. So I would encourage you to listen to this entire podcast. There's a 40-second clip that you could listen to if you hit the play button. But again, super insightful stuff. It's really going to clue you in to the realities of merit aid and where it really comes from. FAQ, is it only low-ranked schools that are desperate enough to buy students? I had a parent ask me this once. Oh, it's only schools that are desperate. Not at all. Look at some of the examples of the enrollment yield I presented above. Case Western's not a low-ranked school. Tulane is not a low-ranked school. There's a lot of colleges that are, I would consider, the elite level that participate in financial aid leveraging. What kind of test scores and GPA does my student need for a college to compete? There's a lot of variables here, but like I said, we've done this for students with GPAs as low as 2.5, SAT scores as low as 800. And with colleges going test optional, that knocks off another variable where we can do this even without a test score. Does this mean that colleges will negotiate their pricing? I mentioned this earlier. Don't worry, we're going to get there. It can, but don't call it a negotiation. Colleges hate that. They like to call it a financial aid appeal. They like to call it professional judgment. We're gonna dive into this later. Our final insight: validating award letters for consistency drives college costs down to the absolute minimum. Old way of doing things, we accept the award letter at face value. Now, some families that are sophisticated enough to file appeals or initiate professional judgment do so, but they do it badly. They don't have the right data. Old result, we end up overpaying by thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. What's the new way of doing it? We evaluate all financial aid appeals or professional judgment strategies. We go into the appeal with the right data so we know how far we can go. With our predictive model, we already know how much money you're supposed to get when you apply. By going in with that information, it makes appeals much more effective. We validate award letters. We leave no money on the table. We get in with the highest possible merit awards. We get in at the lowest possible price. It's the combination of these things. The magic is when all of these things are done in combination. There's a lot of noise around this topic. A few screenshots of people that are writing about this, but they're always missing out on the same things. They never talk about these things. So I'm going to bring you up to speed. Here are the points that aren't normally covered with financial aid appeals. Not all colleges will do this. Okay? The best way to find out if a college will file an appeal or not is, in addition to understanding what their enrollment yield is, you want to go in and actually go into their financial aid section of their website. If they do not file, if they do not do appeals, they will let you know up front. Some colleges will not appeal. Of course, like Harvard or Yale, they're not going to appeal because they're Harvard and Yale. Some colleges will only appeal under certain circumstances. I lost my job, I got divorced, I've got some major medical bills. So under unique circumstances, colleges will appeal. A lot of colleges, they'll play ball. They'll appeal, they'll negotiate, they'll entertain, and look at offers from competing colleges. So to save yourself a lot of time, it's good to go on the college's website and find out if there is a policy for financial aid appeals. If there is no information, then I would move forward. There's basically three strategies. We ask for more, we see what happens. We ask for more and we name a number and we see what happens. Or we do any combination of the first two while showing the college award letters from competing colleges. And it usually works. An appeal works best when you consider these three things. The side that names the number first usually loses. And in this case, that's the college. Never go into an appeal without knowing what your number is supposed to be. We can do this because we've archived all of our award letters at every college that go back years. So we can usually call it, all right? And it's good to have this information before you go into negotiation. Before you go into an appeal. Here's something. You don't have to accept the first no. You can appeal up until you get to the Director of Financial Aid, until you get to the VP of Enrollment Management. But there's a strategy to this. This requires advanced planning, all right? So without knowing how much money you're supposed to get from a college in the first place, you'll never realize the full potential of this strategy. You can't play in the sandbox unless you have the right data. Nobody ever talks about this, but just wanted to share with you our insight on that. Great video where we talk about 3 different stories on different appeals that we've done throughout the years. FAQ. This seems easy enough. Can I just try it on your own? Sure you can. Okay. I just can't promise you're going to get the same result. I've read about it. I tried it. It doesn't work. How can what you're saying here even be true? Well, what data did you have? What strategy did you use? A lot of families, we might hear this, but usually these families kind of went in blind. That's probably what happened. Our team has been doing this for over a decade, and we save every single award letter we could get our grubby little hands on. We have an exhaustive archive of award letters of every college in the United States. Nobody even comes close to what we have. So when you break down and you analyze these award letters, you learn a thing or two. I wish I knew this when I sent my first kid through college. Is there a way to go back and get more money? Typically, no. Okay. It's like buying a car and then going back asking for a discount. What incentive does the college have to award you? You've already picked the school, all right? Now, this goes back to what we said earlier. Sometimes if there's a major life event, a divorce, loss of employment, you can go back and ask for more aid. But going back to ask to try to create the competition after you've said yes doesn't work that way. So to sum this up, all you need to do is understand four-year graduation rates. Look to the expensive colleges. Use social media to increase your admissions chances and your merit awards. Know your EFC before the government or college does. Use empirical data as the foundation for your college search. Create competition between the colleges, which is, again, a byproduct of a combination of all these strategies, and validate the award letters for consistency. If you do these things, you will get 4 years of college for the price of 2, sometimes less. You cut through all the noise, you bust through all the myths, you'll sleep better at night, and you'll cut out all the bullshit. So, you can do this a few ways. Option 1, you can do this the hard way. You can do it yourself. How's that going for most families? This can take up to 200 hours of your time, and it can cost you $40,000 to $80,000 in lost aid potential. What are the pros? There's no upfront cost. You could Google all of it, but you could lose yourself in Reddit, college forums. Again, it's not knowing where to get the answers. It's knowing what questions you need to ask. And a simple misstep can cost you tens of thousands of dollars. Number 2, you can work with your high school counselor. All right, maybe you're going to get an hour with them. That's an hour with them plus the 200 hours that you're going to spend and the $40,000 to $80,000 in lost aid potential. Counselors have one of the hardest jobs in the world. They have a large workload, and their performance is not based on students they get into college. It's based on how many students they graduate out of the high school. So where is their attention really going to go? It's probably going to go to the students that have very unique needs that are having trouble just graduating from high school. I wouldn't blame them for not having enough time to spend time with your student to go over college placement or college admissions. It's just, they know the basics. It's just they're not trained. And getting their time, it's too hard. You can work with your CPA or financial advisor. CPAs and financial advisors are brilliant in the fields that they're really meant to be brilliant in. Tax planning, investment planning. They're typically lousy college planners. A lot of the principles that they apply, such as 529 plans, can actually hurt your financial aid. And they look at college from the standpoint of the cost of going, not the cost of graduating. Other financial advisors, in my opinion, overstep their bounds by actively limiting the choices of colleges that students look at by suggesting community colleges, in-state public colleges, and they're just not qualified in my view. Okay, but you can work with them. But I've seen a lot of families work with advisors and they just don't get the same result. You can work with a typical admissions counselor. You can work with a typical college planner or independent educational consultant. You can pay their hourly rate, but how many hours can you afford? All right. You might spend 6 to 8 hours, but likely you're going to get some sort of outmoded or outdated version of college planning. Very few of them could actually explain to you what enrollment management means. Fewer still can explain to you the role that social media has taken in the admissions process. We've seen other planners charge $6,000 to $10,000, some as much as $30,000, and they don't even come close to the level of planning that we provide. I'd say since 2010, around the time I started, this whole niche of college planning has just exploded. Look on your Facebook feed, you see all these pop-up college planning services that have just come out of nowhere. There's a lot of noise. We've come across services, they're all limited, they're all fragmented. Some are more concerned about getting in, they don't even talk about how you're going to pay for this, all right? A lot of their strategies are so tired. They're 20, 30 years past their shelf life. And you could spend more and you can work with them. Be our guest. Or you can do this the easy way. You can work with us. You can work with game theory college planners and get 4 years of college for the price of 2, sometimes less, without the bullshit, all right? Using modern, advanced academic strategies. Working with us and getting much better sleep at night. And you can do this 10 times faster than doing it on your own. And you can do this at about half the price, or in some cases even less than what typical admissions counselors and college planners charge. Again, this is for you. If you feel that every student, regardless of circumstance, deserves the best shot possible, this is for you. If you want to see your student get all the benefits of an education without the student loan debt, this is for you. If you want to use more of the college's money to pay for college before you use yours, this is for you. If you've already thrown thousands of dollars at a college planner and you haven't gotten anywhere. Maybe you've done all the research, you've listened to all the podcasts and blogs, you've read all the books, and you still haven't gotten anywhere. Stick around, all right? We've helped thousands of families with this process. Tens of thousands of dollars saved. We've helped thousands of families, and we are good at what we do. When you work with us, you're going to afford colleges you never thought possible. You're going to know exactly where the money is going to come from. You're going to sleep better at night. You're going to cut down on all the noise that's out there. You're going to see your college costs get cut in half or more. You're going to forget about the guilt of not having a plan. You're finally going to tear down all the myths. You're going to stop wondering if you missed any steps. You're going to stop guessing what you're supposed to do next. You're going to stop wondering if your student's going to get into a college. You're going to stop wondering where the money's going to come from. Our Fafsa analysis and strategy, you're going to know your EFC. And by knowing your EFC, we're going to know exactly how much money we're going to get and which colleges are going to pay it. You're going to increase your admissions chances and merit awards with our social media courseware and our social media strategy. You're going to build your college search on a solid foundation of empirical data with our student positioning system. You're going to leave zero money on the table with our award letter analysis and our appeal strategies. You're going to sleep better at night knowing where the money will come from with our plan to pay. We build amazing plans. Straightforward, effective, no nonsense. Also, we build plans from the perspective where it's not going to hurt your financial aid. We're going to help you stay on point and stay organized with our enrollment management workflow. No more guessing what you're supposed to do next. You're going to get all of this in addition to a full-time dedicated enrollment manager. Bottom line, if you've made it this far, I know we've taught you more for free than you'll ever get from any other planner or admissions counselor in the game. Now, if you want to get this done by some other planner, you're just not going to get the same result. You're going to pay more for college than you need to, and you're going to pay more in fees to work with someone else. Again, typical admissions counselors and college planners charge $5,000 to $20,000, sometimes more. In addition to this, other planners charge a silly monthly fee. We charge a fraction of what everybody else charges. With a dedicated enrollment manager, these are all the things you're going to get. Fafsa analysis and strategy, social media courseware and strategy, access to our student positioning system and college search engine, award letter analysis, financial aid appeal strategy, enrollment management workflow and timeline, plan to pay. Our service with all these components is valued at $9,000. Even at that price point, that is a great value. But for a limited time, you get all of this for a fraction of the cost. We can only offer this price until the end of the year. We are scaling our operation to meet the relentless and insane demand for our service. Now, we can only bring on 20 new families a month, so make sure you secure your spot. And we only have the bandwidth to do 40 strategy calls a month. Act now, you might not get a chance. We're not joking, we really are that busy. And because you made it this far, we're going to do something special. If you act now, we're going to give you a bonus. Fafsa preparation, valued at $500. We're going to take care of all your financial aid forms, so you don't have to deal with all the tedious tasks of putting all those forms together. We're also going to give you a year subscription to our ePrep platform. And we're going to give you a dedicated career and coach counselor. All these bonuses are valued at $2,650. So let's summarize this. With your dedicated enrollment manager, you're going to get all of this valued at $9,000. And if you act now, we're going to give you a bonus. All of this valued at $2,650. Our entire offer represents a total value of over $11,000. And you can get all of it for a fraction of the cost. All I need to do is get a price. All right, get on our calendar. Now, some of you may be asking some of these things. Am I too early to start? I have a high school freshman. No, it's never too early. Get on our calendar. Am I too late? I have a high school senior. It's never too late, but I'll tell you, the later you start, it just gets a little more intense, gets a little harder. If you're really late, you might want to consider a gap year, or maybe starting in the spring instead of the fall. I already have a college planner at the private school I'm attending. Do I still need this service? Yes, you do. What we do is different. I see you're based in Atlanta. I'm all the way in California. Can you still help? I don't care where you live. You can live on the moon. You can live on the East Coast, West Coast, Midwest. As long as you've got an internet connection, we're in business. I probably make too much money to get financial aid, but can you still help? Yes, that is a myth. Anyone that tells you you make too much money to get aid really doesn't understand how colleges work. How do I know this is not a scam? I saw that Netflix documentary about Operation Varsity Blues. Well, you should watch our reaction video on this. I recorded a vlog about it. But here's how you know we're not a scam. Let's start by saying this. I'm not going to ask you for $400,000 in a donation to get you into Stanford. That's how you're going to know. Okay? We don't do that around here. I've never heard of game theory college planners. How do I know you are legit? Well, do you know what Google is? Try that first. Tell me what you find. Colleges tell us all the time, we don't need to pay anyone to do this for us. All this information is free on the internet. Yeah, knock yourself out. Go on the internet. Go for it, all right? But you kind of lost us when you said the college told us. Because if you're trying to beat the house, if you're trying to beat the casino, would you listen to what the casino had to say? Would you come to them for help? And are they really going to tell you what you need to know? I already have a college planner doing this for me. No, you don't. If your college planner was doing remotely anything we were doing, you wouldn't even be here. All right? Your college planner wants to help, and they're doing their best to help with the tools that they have. They just don't have the tools that we have. All right? Our college is really this expensive. It did not cost this much when I went to college. Yeah, cell phones didn't cost as much. Houses didn't cost as much. Cars didn't cost as much. Lots changed. All right? Colleges really are this expensive. Why can't you help us get into Harvard? This is not for you. Students get themselves into Harvard with the things they've already done. And outside of shady backroom deals or big donations, no one's going to help you get in Harvard. They might be selling it, but we wouldn't buy it. All right? Schools like Harvard have admissions methodologies that really depends on the mood of the admissions team that day. It's so arcane and esoteric. Nobody has figured this out. It's just, but here's the deal. We shouldn't be running around applying principles of college admissions to the other 99.9% of the colleges based on what the 0.01% are doing, right? So we're not the kind of people, have we had students going to Harvard and Yale and Princeton? Absolutely. But that's because those colleges were a fit. And the student brought the things that they already had to the table to get into those kinds of schools. Can we help you validate if Harvard's a good fit? Sure. Can we help you understand the aid methodologies they use? All day long, all right? That's just not what we do, all right? There's only one thing left to do. Let's see if we can help you.